Today, let's do some 101 knowledge on our first ever Austrian club. This is Rapid Wien, or Rapid Vienna. You might also know them from Central Europe as well as in Austria, just as Rapid. What you got above here is the 2008-2009 home kit, iconic for their vertical white and green stripes. It's one of the clubs that's oldest in Central Europe, having been founded in 1899, and they are the working class club from the city of Vienna, founded on the western side of the city. Die Grün-Weißen, or the Green Whites as they're nicknamed, have a very straightforward badge with two awesome golden laurels around the edge here of the word Rapid in the middle. They have a shield with the green and white stripes in it, all crested with 3 stars across the top, each signifying 10 Austrian Bundesliga titles that the club has won. The kit is by Adidas. 2008, 2009, 2010, they had this habit for their European clubs putting this really big collar on them. Kind of floppy, but I really like it. The neck itself is a little small, so it's hard to get your head through. All in all, it's a kit that I really like. I mentioned 3 stars across the top of the badge, each signifying 10 Austrian Bundesliga titles. The club has a total of 32, which is a record within the country. They've also won the cup competition 14 different times. And where clubs from Central Europe generally can have difficulty going deep in continental competitions, Rapid have found success there. They've won the Mitropa Cup 2 different times, this being an older competition that was specifically for clubs from Central European countries. It's a defunct competition. It went out of phase in 1992, along with a lot of changes socially, politically, and footballing across Europe at the time. They've also gone to the final of the Cup Winners' Cup competition, another defunct one, 2 different times, once in the 80s and once in the 90s. The club competed in one of Europe's most important and long-running rivalries. This is the Wiener Derby with their crosstown rivals, Austria Wien, most commonly known within the country just as Austria. We're going to talk about this one for a bit since it's an important one. The 2 clubs both were founded in the western side of the city, although Austria has moved to the southern side. I talked about this being the working class club. This is more the middle class intellectuals club. Right now, it's more regionally of where you are in the city as far as if you're supporting this club, because these 2 are also 2 of the biggest clubs in the country as well. This match has been played 330 different times, making it the 3rd most played match in all of Europe, behind the Edinburgh Derby, which is played between Hearts and Hibs, as well as the Glasgow Derby, or the Old Firm, between Celtic and Rangers. These 2 play against each other frequently because neither have been relegated from the top flight in the country, as well as the format that's played in the Austrian Bundesliga, meaning there are a ton of matches between both. And there's not really enough time to talk about it, but for the curious, take a look at why Rapid is hated by Celtic FC because of a knockout match in the 1980s. This one is a fiery one. I finally got to watch it for the first time in a bunch of years because OneFootball, which is an app, lets you watch it for free. They show pretty much all of the Austrian Bundesliga, plus a couple other leagues across Central Europe, so that's a cool way to watch some clubs you may not see here in America. 2 last quick things about the club, the first being Viertelstunde, which means quarter of an hour in German. 15 minutes from the end of a match, supporters from the club will start this rhythmic hand-clapping celebration, which goes around their stadium, home or away, and is a kind of loud rolling on the beach, raucous thunder kind of thing, which is energizing and it's a pretty cool sight to behold. Being one of the 2 biggest clubs in the country, they've also been home to some of the best Austrian talent that's ever come through the country and onto the continent beyond. The first I'll start with is a more modern club legend, that being Stefan Hofmann. He was attacking midfielder for the club and he played most of this century there before retiring in 2018. Through all the lore and the matches that I've watched for this club, I can tell you that he's one of the most technically skilled players, as well as one of the most selfless players that's ever played for the club. The second being one of the country's greatest players of all time, that being Hans Krakel. He's a striker for the club. He scored over 14 goals in all 14 of his full seasons with the club, usually going over 20 as well, which is great consistency for a goal scorer. He moved on to Barcelona for a little bit afterwards, and he's the Austrian Bundesliga's all-time leading goal scorer, but not the leading goal scorer all-time for the club. For a quick, more modern name that fans of the Premier League, especially of Newcastle United, may know, it's Joe Linton. He was an attacker for the club. He had a 2-year loan spell for Rapid at one time. And the last name, and one you can always bring up in any conversation, is Josip Bican. This man, nicknamed Pepe, is one of the greatest goal scorers in the history of the game. He's kind of forgotten in modern times, seeing as he played in the 30s and 40s in that interwar period and a bit afterwards. He's famed not for this club, where he played just 4 seasons, scoring 54 goals, but rather for his time with Slavia Prague in what was then known as Czechoslovakia. He scored 950 goals in his career across about 600 games, making him utterly prolific. And whenever there is a conversation about the greatest footballer of all time, Most people these days will talk about Messi and Ronaldo, which is fair, but you can bring up this name and you're not going to be run out of the house because you're pretty much right that this man can be in that conversation eternally. Let's talk about their current squad because there are 4 players in it that you should know, with a couple of them probably moving on to bigger leagues around Europe in the coming seasons. First man to know would be Marco Gruel. He's a left winger for the club. He's a goal-scoring winger as well, and he's already bettered his total from last season in about half as many games this year. The second is a man that I think they want to keep on for more than just 1 or 2 seasons. They trust him pretty well. Christoph Lang is his name. He's an attacking midfielder. They gave him the number 10 just in January, having brought him over from Hartberg, a club in Steiermark. He's a good young talent and one that I expect they want to grow and cultivate and build their club around for a couple seasons. Next would be Guido Bergstaller. He is a striker for the club. He's a big man, muscular, and moves cleverly and a lot faster than you'd expect for a big, tall guy. He's a good striker for the club. He had a really good derby just recently against Austria Wien and is one of the players that came back to the club from his time at Schalke and St. Pauli in Germany after 8 seasons away. What I consider to be the best talent at the club and one of the best in Austria's footballing lineage at the moment is Leopold Querfeld. He's a center back for the club. He's been with them since the age of 9, and at the age of 20, he's already solidifying himself as part of their defensive core. So that's your rundown on our first Austrian club, Rapid Wien from the capital of Vienna, one of Central Europe's most fabled clubs.